Hey everybody, welcome again to the Mosaic Podcast. And I am like so intoxicated today with my guest. I don't even know how in the world we discovered each other. Well, I do know a friend of mine who is literally like a air quote friend. I knew her about 15 years ago when we were in the spa industry together. Her name is Patty Lee Putter. She sent me a text message and said, you have to listen to the music of Mei-lan Mauritas. Is that how you say it? Mauritas. Mauritas. You have to listen to the music of Mei-lan Mauritas. And she sent me a link, and I thought, so many people send me things that I sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't, sometimes I just say thank you. But there was something intoxicating enough in the link that was there that I just press play. And I thought I'll just listen and I'll put it on in the background. Within about 3 or 4 seconds, there was no background. There was no foreground. There was just this voice and this music that had pierced into my heart. And she sent something to me that said, I think you should get to know her. I think you should try and talk to her. And I said, well, do you know her? And she said, no, I don't. I've never met her. I just follow her music. But I think she might be open to you having a conversation. And I said, well, okay, why not? And I reached out, and you wouldn't know this, but Mei-lan has thousands and thousands and thousands of people responding to her music. And so I thought, I'll put it out there. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, I just have the pleasure of having this sound now that fills me whenever I want, because it's on her Facebook, and we'll give you those links in the show notes. But she responded. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this experience, but if you haven't, I can't wait for you to do it. There was a reconnection with a part of my heart that had nothing to do with sexuality or romantic love, but it had to do with a deep soul yearning of pieces of my soul literally coming together as a mosaic with another person that I had never met, had never even spoken to, had never even known, allegedly, right? That there was just this huge coincidence that all of a sudden she was me and I was her. And we've had some conversations from that. And there was nothing I could do more than introduce you, the people who listen to this Mosaic podcast. There was nothing I wanted more for you than to introduce you to her. So I'm going to start to become quiet now and just to say, welcome to our show.
It's so beautiful.
You are a gift, and I want to welcome you, and I want to thank you for taking time from your intoxicatingly busy schedule to spend this time with us.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to add to that because I do receive a lot of messages, and when I opened yours, I felt my heart. I felt your heart, and I felt my heart as well. So I think we had a similar experience where something about the way you spoke, and I felt your energy behind it, your intention, and immediately I felt resonance, and I was very excited to get to know you as well. And so for the listeners, it was mutual.
Thank you. What an honor. And so even if you stop right now and you don't hear anything more of this interview, what I want you to go away from this point is that what we think we know about the world is so little compared to what the world wants to give us.
Yeah.
And so how would that be possible in a normal world where two people who don't know each other at all, in the world that we live in that has so much of a lack of trust? How would it be possible that just from a few words, a few notes, a few sounds, that there could be this falling in love not from a place where I want something from you, but I just recognize you're a part of me. That how could that be possible? What I want, one of the big meanings of this Mosaic podcast is that we start to learn to see what we can't see. That we start to know that this universe is a benevolent, kind universe, and that it will introduce us, if we're open to it, to people that are just exquisite for us, to help us, to take us, to hold us, to nurture us. And Mei-lan, that's what you've been for me, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you. And something was coming to me when you were saying that, and what it is love.
Yeah.
Because love is who we are in essence, and it speaks through and listens through everything. And I think that in how we connected and what the resonance was that heart and the love. That is who we are, is love in essence. And we are all more the same than we perceive as different.
Yeah.
In essence, when you break it all down, all the identity, who we were told we were, who we think we are, you know, and in essence, we are more alike. And so I think that through your work, through my work, through the medium, right? When that intention is very clear, it's felt.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we talked about some of the things that we might talk about, but we just let spirit guide us. I don't know if we're going to go to any of those places really, because some of what I think is really happening is in a world that, like, we all speak that, we all want to believe that, we all want to know that this love is there and that we can trust that and have faith in that and surrender into it. And as we were speaking before, you were talking to me about a new sort of series that you were creating, which I never do right from the start here, because my whole goal is to get people to know you, but we're right there. Like this whole idea of trust and surrender. Can you share with us a little bit about what you were saying? Because why not just jump right in? Because if somebody hasn't felt your heart already, like, why take too much? Why blow the few minutes that we have together? Let's just jump in and feel it.
Okay. Well, trust and surrender, how that came about was I had posted a short clip of me with this crystal bowl and singing. And somebody asked, they said, what is it, are you rehearsed? Because the hand motions that come out, the voice and all of it, and the music, like, almost in a way of, it must be rehearsed.
Yeah.
And which I thought, I thanked her for that question, because it gave me an opportunity to share that the power of it is actually removing yourself out of the way and just allowing yourself to be the instrument, to be the voice box for the divine to come through. And the more that you surrender, the more that trust is available to you, and how surrender and trust work with one another. And it's this incredible dance that the more that I trust in the divine, in the channel, the deeper I can surrender and allow. And the more that I can surrender, the more my heart opens, which is then felt.
Yeah.
And it just, I'm not working. And that's the beauty. I don't have to try. I don't have to force. It's just the deeper that I allow and I surrender into that moment, the more that it comes through. And yeah.
I love that, because it's so counterintuitive to the way everybody works right now.
Yes.
Right. We all work so hard. Like I'm working with some people that are in the speaking world, and they memorize their things. And what I try and share with them is, when you memorize what you're saying, you will look professional. You'll say the right things, but the feeling will be gone, because there's no intuitive, instinctual thing that happens. And even in the way we approach the self-help industry, or the way we want to change, we think there's so much work that has to happen, when really what I love about your music, and we're going to play some of it in the podcast, and we're going to definitely make sure that you have access to all the places where you can hear it. There's something so disarming, something so innocent, something so pure about what comes from you. That it doesn't take the work. You don't have to work to try and become something. You just have to let this sound in. And when you let this sound in, it touches something that opens you up. And when it opens up that love in you, all the other stuff sort of vanishes. It's like there isn't room inside of us for both the love that we feel and the fear that we have. And so why I'm so intoxicated with you is because you are a place that just opens the heart. And if you can't already hear it from the resonance of her voice, even just in speaking, even in just sitting here together, if you like look at this beautiful angelic presence, hear her voice, that there's something that's there that doesn't have to be worked at. For those of you who are listening and not on the video, sometimes I'll pause for a minute just to try and listen to what wants to come out. But I think I do want to try and introduce you to people, because they'll hear your sounds and they'll know you. But we jumped into the middle of this trust and surrender sort of out of context. And so I would like to give people a context of childhood, sort of what happened for you, what your life was like, how you developed your voice. So let's just talk about when you were a kid. What did you want to be?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Because more than what I wanted to be, we were told what we were going to be.
Wow.
And to give context to that, I was raised in a very restricted and secluded environment. And they had a very strong set of belief systems and teachings. And so growing up in that environment, there wasn't any room for you to dream or to develop something in yourself of, this is what I'm drawn to, this is what I want to do. And actually the dreaming part, I was told a lot that I was somewhere else, that I was always somewhere else. And so when I learned to stay very structured in the program. And the interesting thing was the way that this in this culture, this cult, a lot of the ways that they supported themselves was through music. And they saw that from a young age that I could sing. And so I was always put on the singing teams. And so I think I've always had a background in it, performing and singing. And it wasn't until later on when my parents left that sort of continued, because that's what we knew. That's how we knew how to support ourselves, was through music. And so our family, we had a little band, and I would perform, and we would sing covers. Nothing, it wasn't like we made our own music or anything. And so I loved it, but I never felt fulfilled in that. And it was actually more of a chore, that this is what I have to do. And so I think from 18 was the last time that I had shut it down, and I just know this is not what I want to do. And that's now,
2 years ago.
Time ago. 2 years ago. but I've always been deeply moved by music. It's music, when I found the music that would move me. So whether that was hearing somebody sing and I could feel their soul, or a piece of music that would move me in a way. And I really loved what you said of that word yearning. Yearning has been a huge part of my life, in the way of yearning to feel connection, yearning to feel my soul stirred and moved, yearning to feel the connection to the divine, just that word. And so actually now when I do sing, it's a combination between the yearning of my soul and the channel that can come through. And I think that's what that might be what you feel, what you experience, because I experience it.
So there's so much in what you said that I just want to unpack a minute, because part of what the Mosaic podcast is all about is seeing how sometimes the situations we're in are just the situations we're in. They're not who we are or what we have to be in the rest of our life. And so for you at a certain point in time to have the courage to leave this restricted environment, and we don't need to go into the details of that, or who cares, but just to know that this environment that once sort of served you, or was told would serve you, no longer served you, you could leave it, takes tremendous courage. And so for those people who are out there listening right now, because so many of us feel stuck, not in a cult necessarily, but in the cult of a workplace, in the cult of how we think we have to show up and perform in life, and in the cult of the neighborhood we live in the cult of, cult is such a supercharged word, and in your situation, the supercharged had a ton of meaning to it because it was, but we live in cults that I call silos.
Yes.
That seem free to us at first, but then bind us. And so for anybody who's listening now, who is in their silo, in their cult of something that felt right for a little while, but they're starting to feel it's not right for them, what would you say to them to allow them to have the courage to move into the uncertainty, which we're scared to death of what is coming, and sort of surrender and trust? Now I'm seeing why we went there. Sort of surrender and trust that step will be okay for them. Is there anything you could give to them that you might say?
Well, I mean, it's a process in itself. And I feel just the way that trust works, and which is the pearl within trust itself, right, is it's given, like something is given and you receive that, and that felt really good. I trust that, and then a little bit more and a little bit more. And the value within trust is that it's built as well. There's a building to it. And so for me personally, it was a definite process of, it was this dance. And what I would encourage anyone who maybe feels stagnant or stuck, or feels there is more, which is something common I hear a lot, and I've experienced myself, of course, that trust that. Begin with that. Trust that your soul is telling you there is more. There is more to you and your potential and to who you are, because love is limitless. It is boundless. It's rapture. And that is who you are in essence. And so if you feel that you are in a container, then trust that your soul is showing you something. And then you surrender to that. Okay, so let me surrender to this feeling and accept that. Because sometimes there's that challenge, right? We feel what's going to happen? What's going to happen if I trust that?
Yeah.
Or if I surrender to that? How can I know?
Yeah.
And so it's about listening. creating that space to listen to the yearning.
Yeah. Love that. Adore that. And in some ways it's so easy, and in some ways it's not easy, because we have to learn when we listen what the sound of each voice in our spirit is. Because sometimes the sound of the divine will sound very similar to the sound of our own desires. And we have to realize that when sometimes those are linked together like a mosaic, that our desires and the divine desire for us is exactly the same. And those are the moments where we're in ecstasy, and we work in harmony with that. But there's sometimes the desires of our nature are not the desires of the divine. But we're scared to follow the desires of the divine, and we rationalize the desires of our own nature, saying, well, I heard this voice, tell me. And so what I found in my life, I'm interested in your experience as well, is we almost have to be a scientist and start to analyze how the different sounds happen and what the results are when we follow those different, like when we hear that voice, why does sometimes that voice take us into like jumping off a cliff and destroying everything? And why does sometimes it take us into jumping off a cliff and having a hot air balloon catch us and lift us up into the heavens, right? Mm-hmm. And have you had some experience with that?
Go ahead and say yes.
Okay. And would you mind sharing those experiences?
Yes. So I would say that in my journey, what I've come to realize is when we listen to the part inside of us that comes alive. For example, I've seen that our gifts and our talents is always in alignment with our soul's purpose and with our soul. And it's the thing that actually gives us the most joy that is the thing. And if I would have looked even 5 months ago and looked at where I'm at right now, which is utilizing my voice in this way and the music, I wouldn't have even thought that this was what I was going to be doing. Wow. Honestly, I thought it was a completely different direction.
Wow.
But it was the thing that, I would do in the closet when nobody was home, even my partner. Then I'd turn the music up, and then I would start to sing and in this specific way. And it brought me so much joy. I feel I open in this way. My heart opens, tears come down, because I'm in full alignment and connection to my soul and what I'm here to do. And so I've seen this a lot, in people, the thing when they say, I'm looking for my purpose, I'm looking for that thing, and I feel trapped, and they, all the feelings. I always encourage and I say, what do you love to do? What and what do you love to do when you're alone?
Yeah.
Because that thing,
yeah,
is encoded in your soul. And it's your gift. Your gift is your gift to humanity, is your gift to the planet, is what can bring that healing and that upliftment, because it lifts you up. So what lifts you up is going to lift up around you.
I love that, because it's so simple. And it's so interesting, because in the course of my life, what I've realized is sometimes the thing that is my gift is so natural to me that I don't even realize that it's a gift.
Right.
Right. I think everybody has the ability to do that, because it doesn't feel like a gift. It just feels like it's natural. And I think if we start to sit with, like you're saying, with what our gift is, what is the thing that's most natural to us, and realize that just because it's natural to us doesn't mean it's natural to everybody else. It's natural to us
Right.
because it is our gift, right?
Yes.
And that's the people. I speak to so many people and I ask them, why do they think they're here? And I can't tell you how many people say, how big the percentage is that says, I don't know. I'm just here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. And that sense of purpose that you spoke of that gift that you have, which is your purpose to share, we sometimes get waylaid because we think that it has to be to hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes.
Right? It just has to be for ourselves. And even if we touch one other person, what a beautiful thing. But we can touch ourselves with our own gift.
Yes.
And what I love about what I see in you is, in a world where everybody screams about who they are, you whisper. In a world where people are trying to stand up and say, look at me, you just say, who I am is invisible, because what comes through me is what's important.
Yeah.
There's a purity and an innocence to you that I want to do everything that I possibly can to help it spread like wildfire, because I think that's what our world needs now. So when did you first realize, I know you said you sang with your family, and then you sort of, at a certain point, you left that. Was there an inclination in you that you had to leave that music also? Or because so many times we leave something and we leave everything behind, and we say, well, we were doing music together, so we can't do that anymore. When did you discover this new sound that came through you, this new way of doing it? And talk to people about it, because if they haven't heard you, they think we're talking like Greek or now,
Like,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tell us that experience.
Yes, and there's something I want to say that stood out just now in the last thing you said of, where you put it aside, and like in context of putting the gift aside and then it coming through. I think also honoring that process, right? Because now when I look back, I think me putting aside was putting an old version of that, or what I thought that would be, and giving that space. And of course, going through what I did go through, and looking back in that, I can see that actually developed, even though it was very challenging and sometimes traumatic in the events that I've had in my life, where I didn't understand. And it actually had nothing to do with my voice, and maybe everything. It had everything to do what was growing inside of me, to then come to this place where when I did say yes and I opened, it could come out and come through in the way that it does. And it started where I had an experience where about 3 years ago, my father passed away, and I witnessed it. And two things significantly shifted for me in this experience. And I was very close to my father. He's beautiful and taught me such amazing things, and just an incredible soul. So I want to say that. And the gift that he gave me in his passing, he showed me the power of our breath and how we take breath for granted, when actually breath is life.
Yeah.
And I saw him struggle in this moment to hold on to his physical body, which he was trying to do through the breath. But I also witnessed what was happening when he would leave. And so that opened up something else for me in watching this experience. And he showed me, he started listening to, I don't know if you know Wayne Dyer, probably everybody knows it, of course. But he introduced me to him, and I started to listen to this man, and he made this one track called I Am That I Am, and it's a sound frequency. And there was something about this frequency. When I heard this sound and I heard this note, I felt this opening, this experience that I couldn't describe. And I would sit every day. I would sit and I would listen, and something started to change in me. And this was a process that still took about 3 years or almost 4 years. So I'd listen to that track, and I would listen to this other track that I happened to find on YouTube that was angels singing slow down to 800 or something like this. And because I was going through this grief and this sadness of losing my father, but at the same time wanting to understand what I had witnessed with watching him leave and all of this, and I pressed this sound, and within 1 second, 2 seconds of this sound, I would breathe a breath that I have never breathed in my life. And it was an opening, and I could feel I was home, and I felt peace like I have never felt before. I could feel. Yeah. And so I would listen to these 2 tracks, literally, and I think what was really happening was a shift and a reprogramming and structuring of everything. And then about, say, a year ago now, I started to heal through, I'd find different, guided meditations or sounds that I could feel this feeling of peace and shift. And then I started to I said, well, what if I made a meditation, and there were certain people around me that were going through things. And I said, well, let me help. I can guide you through this process. And so that started to come through. And then I said, well, I need music. It wasn't just like something, let's put music because it's such a universal language, right? And then well, what if I just make my own music? And it sort of, happened like that. And even through that, when I did open up my voice again, I had actually lost it completely. Wow. For about 2 months. I couldn't even barely speak. But intuitively, I knew that healing was happening from growing up in a culture where you didn't really have a voice, and then, just different things. So there was a lot happening. And when I came out the other side of that and I opened up, I could hear it.
Wow.
And I could feel it. And that even in itself has been a process. And so first I do it more for myself and just in the recording studio, and then finally I came to this opening where I said, you know what? Yes, let's do this. Let's go. And that's when I said, okay, let's do this live. And if it helps, if it resonates, yay. And, and then it just did.
And then it exploded.
Exploded.
And so what I want our listeners to hear, first of all, is the integrity of who this person is that you're listening to, not me, Mei-lan. You can listen to my integrity too. I'm happy to share it with you. But Mei-lan's integrity. And what I want you to sort of hear is when you will go now, for those of you who haven't heard her, you will go now and hear her. And you will think, how is it possible that some of the things that she's talking about right here in that developmental process, because she is everything is so beautiful and her spirit touches you so completely, and it feels so professional and it feels so alive and so beautiful. I remember sitting with someone when I was at Hay House, and someone came up to them and said, boy, it must be good to be just like an overnight success. Like all of a sudden you went from nowhere to somewhere. And this woman answered back, yes, sweetheart, I've been a 40-year overnight success. It's taken me 40 years and now I'm an overnight success, right? The amount of work that goes in and the amount of diligence that goes in and the amount of soul searching that goes in to anything that we do is so important. So open up to that process, because what I love in Mei-lan's story is that she opened up to one thing, which opened up for her to another thing, which opened up to another thing. And to me, that's the mosaic. We are one piece away from the peace that we seek.
Mm.
We just have to keep allowing the pieces to bring us to that place. When you sit where you are now and you see the thousands of people, how do you stay innocent and clean? Because so many people start to believe all those press clippings.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see when you go to her stuff that she does live, there's a steady flow. Thousands of people just saying, oh my God, this is so blah, 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 whatever it is. How do you allow that to enter you and feel grateful for it without at the same time becoming an egomaniac? Because look how clean you are.
Well, it's very simple. It's not me.
Yeah.
and that, you know, I love the conversation I had with Spirit in that, when I said, just let me be the vessel. And I'm so grateful. I truly feel so grateful to be the vessel, and just honored. I feel deeply honored. And for me, I feel that fulfillment when people say, my heart is opening and tears are coming out, like a lot, tears, and I say, yes, I know. Like, it doesn't go through me of, I did that. I didn't. It's Spirit. And I know this because when I am in my personal space and I sing and I let it, tears flow down my face and my heart opens. So I know what they're experiencing, because I experience Spirit, and now I just become the channel, and you can experience Spirit, and it's Spirit. It's source, it's love. It's love. That is what you are feeling. And I'm so grateful. I'm like, yes, if it's healing you, if it's touching you, if it's igniting you, if it's activating you, inspiring, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Because this is how we are going to rise together. It's through love. It's not through force. It's not through, fighting. It's through feeling it. And when we because this is what unites us, is the love, the unconditional love that is in each and every one of us, of who we are. That is the oneness. And so when we can connect in this way, and all of us have a different medium. I mean, even why I felt so much resonance with your work and your book, you're saying the same thing that I am singing. It's Spirit.
Yeah.
It's and that's the beauty.
Yeah, there's something that touched me that even as I was sort of preparing in meditation today for our conversation together, there is a resonance of innocence that I feel both you and my book were trying to help me to see. Because I don't know that I said this, I don't remember what I said privately to you or what I've said on the show, but when I was writing the mosaic, I thought it would take me about a month and a half to do, because I had already written something for a hotel to brand them by telling a story. And this was my story, sort of. So it was very easy. I sort of knew exactly what to do. And I sat down and I started writing. But somewhere along the line, it took me 3 years to do it. And the reason it took me 3 years to do it was because the characters themselves started to become alive. And they said to me, we don't like what you're saying, we are saying. We want you to listen to what we're telling you to say and just write what we are saying for you to say. And I fought that. I said, well, come on, this is like, who am I even speaking to? You're just a fictitious character in a book that I'm writing. But slowly over time, what I realized is everything in this world speaks to us, even the characters that we make up. Even the stories that we tell, even the breeze that's blowing now on my face from the ocean, everything is speaking to us if we just would listen to the sound and listen to what it's saying. And so there's an innocence in that place, because we spoke earlier about, like, I want people to know you. And you said, well, I'm a little hesitant about that because it isn't me. It's something else. And the whole desire that I have for people to know you is to experience you, but it's the you that isn't there. It's it's the you that is the vessel for things to come through. And really, when the power of your music in my mind, in my heart, is that I'm hearing pounding. Do you hear pounding, or are you not here? Yeah. Okay. Well, let me try and close things. The beauty of who you are and the resonance of what you show is this sense of allowing spirit to come through. And when that spirit touches you, it touches me also, and it allows itself to come through me also. So let me take a quick 2-minute break and just shut some of these doors, like a 30-second break. It's not going to be 2 minutes. I'm just going to shut doors. Okay. Sorry about that, but then we don't have to hear the pounding, hopefully. Does that resonate with you of what I'm saying? Because I think somehow the essence of who you are, when you disappear, you help us disappear. And that's what the healing of your music is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because for me, and going back to when we say natural, what's natural, this actually opening up and surrendering and being that channel is very natural to me. But it's the part that I was afraid of and ashamed of and kept hidden. And now, of course, I'm seeing, oh, that is the gift, right?
So can you pause for a minute? Hold on to what you want to say. Talk to me about the embarrassment and shame of the natural, because I think that's going to reside with a lot of people.
Yes. I mean, for me, it was wrapped in different things of spirituality, and just in the way that I was raised, in the cult environment. They were very, I would say, they were religious, but they weren't. Like, they said they weren't religious, but it was very Christian, and so I don't know. Like, I was given definitely a very specific programming, and something they did teach you was channeling. They taught you from little how to tune in and pray and all of that. And so so I would do this later on my own, and once leaving and a couple of years ago, I really wanted to understand, like, what was this that I was fed so that I can understand it. And I wanted to know what is mine and what is natural to me, and what was, because I was afraid, am I just running off of a program, right? And so when I started to understand, okay, what is my connection? What is my connection to source and spirit? Not anything to do with what I was taught. There was this piece of it that I didn't want anybody to know. And I was afraid. I think one of the biggest things was I was afraid I wasn't going to be accepted. And of course, we all long to be accepted and naturally.
Yeah.
But I was very afraid of that, of not being accepted. And what I realized after it was I wasn't accepting it myself. So if I can't accept it myself, how was anyone else going to accept that?
Yeah.
And going deeper into that, why didn't I accept that? And I think there was this resistance of I'm not good enough. I think that might have been there as well, of who I am is not valuable, is not good enough. And so, and also I was afraid to seem crazy to people. I think that was, And so there was so much there. I mean, I even hid it for a long time with my partner. I was ashamed, and he said, I want to learn about your background. I want to learn about, your connection to spirit, because I can see it, I can feel it.
Totally.
And I would wait till he would be out of the house and, with my daughter, and then I would, okay, now I'm gonna, go there.
Yeah.
And then so I started, the process for me was, wow, this is so beautiful and powerful, and I actually accept this about myself. And who am I doing it for? Am I doing it for my personal connection and to feel that connection to source and to serve? Or am I doing it to have validation? So there's that part as well. And when you can release that need to be approved or validated, what unlocks it unlocks it for you. Your natural ability and gift will come alive. And actually, speaking of coming alive, well, I'm really glad I get to share this part, because this was actually the shift from me releasing myself from singing to this moment. It was about 3 years ago. My partner, because he's a sound engineer and producer, and there was someone that he was working with, making their album, producing their album, very talented singer, musician. And he had written this song called Come Alive. And the song was about a gargoyle who, through all of the pain and the things that had experienced, turned into a gargoyle where it was safe. I'm safe in my tower. And it was about a man or a person had to climb through, vines and through all this stuff to reach the gargoyle to say, I see you and I feel you and you're safe. And so while they were making the song, he had said, I'm having a block in this moment. And they said, May, could you come in the studio for a minute? And I didn't have any attachment. I was like, studio singing, I don't know. And they said, could you just listen? Could you listen? And he's very intuitive, and I think he might have seen something. So I listened to it, and I said, well, let me tell you what I hear. And so I just briefly sang something. He said, you need to sing it. I said, no, I don't sing. He said, please get behind the mic and sing it. And the lyric was, I'm untouchable, right? Because I'm this gargoyle. But unbreakable. I'm up here all alone, so far from home. And help me come alive, was something like that. And in the part where I had to sing Until I Come Alive, it was a part where it escalated in the note, and it and I sang it, and I did it a couple of times. And he said to me, the writer of this song, he said, I literally see something coming alive in you. And I could feel it. And when I reached this note and I sang, I felt something open. And it was that level of it. Literally, the lyrics of the song were playing out physically, and of course now I see all of it.
Yeah.
And it was stepping out of my comfort zone and what we deem as safe, right? And stepping out of that and saying, it's time to come alive. Whatever is inside of me, come alive. And so it was an extremely powerful experience, and what I would share with anyone that has created that safe place in the tower and isolation right? But at least I'm not getting hurt. But then we're in our own prison, you know, and maybe something externally is not hurting, but all of the hurt is staying inside.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open and break that free and say, I trust whatever is you've been holding releases, and then your heart, what is truly inside of you, can come alive. And that is your gift. That is your gift to yourself, to source, and then source can use you, you can become that instrument for peace, for love, for freedom, activation, healing. And the more that you give of it, the more you receive, the stronger your gift grows. It's so beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing it. And once again, I am so touched by how much we are the same soul, because I was just about to ask you if there was one thing you wanted to share with people, what would that be? And then you shared this most beautiful story and song. And for those people listening, it's time. It's time for you to come out. It's time for you to bring your message. I want to ask you, I could talk to you, you know, where I'm intoxicated. I could talk to you for the rest of my life without missing a moment, and I'd be happy. But
that will come.
That will come too. I end the podcast with the same question, and if it needs one follow-up question, I ask that as well. When you look at the world we're living in, with all of its goodness and all of its sort of pain, all of its disagreement, all of the confrontation, all of the troubles that are happening, all of the things that are, the voices that are speaking that aren't getting heard, and all the advances we've made also, and all the beautiful things that are happening. When you look at the world, is this the world you dream of giving to your children and your children's children? Is this what you always thought would be the gift that you would give to them?
No.
Yeah. Okay. And so thank you. And most of the people I ask, no matter what side of the fence they stand on in an agreement or disagreement, most of us answer no. Some people say yes, but I'm always interested to hear why. So what would be one thing that you would like to give to this world that would allow us to become or set in motion that thing that would make this the world that we would thrillingly hand to our children and our children's children?
Love.
Yeah. I mean, it really feels so obvious, but I always ask the question, and I just want to do it. And what I really want is I want to take it from the ethereal now, which is where we've been speaking, to the experience of you. And we are going to play music that will be a part of this podcast, because I want you to experience the experience of what this is, not just hear about it. And we will give, if people want to know more about you, please tell them your website, just so they have it.
Oh, it's MeilanMauritas.com.
Okay, and we'll put all that in the show notes, and we'll put all the places where you can receive her, and we'll include music in here as well. So when we come out, you will be entitled to a beautiful gift that she will give you. Before I actually go out, which I just want to make sure people know, there's some new work that you're doing. Do you want to just talk about that new work for a little bit that's come to you?
Which syncs up with what I want to share with the world, which is love. So I've been guided to create a just a small series. I like to keep it as simple as possible because it is the simplicity, right? It's something for people to get in touch again with their heart and to open the heart, release from constriction, and move into just true, genuine acceptance of the love that we are. And from that, go into the outpouring, the flooding, and just to connect everyone, on a heart level to one another, so we can start feeling each other, that this is the norm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've already created the first one, which I did yesterday, and after I finished that, because it's so beautiful also when you do what you're in alignment to do, what you're here to do, you receive the healing, the blessing as well. And when I came out of that space of opening up from constriction, I just sat there, and this heart opening, awakening, and I said to my partner, I said, oh, I love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm really excited. I'm excited to share this and for everyone to experience this true love.
And how will people know that that's available? Do you have like a mailing list that they can sign up?
Yeah, well, yes, that's being created as well. But for right now, my Facebook business page, I'll make an announcement and I'll have the link there where you can get it on my website.
Perfect.
So,
I want to thank you from our heart, because I don't even feel it's my heart anymore. Your impact on me has been remarkable. It's rare that I stand up and endorse somebody as strongly as I want to endorse you, because I just oftentimes don't feel it, but I feel it so much. And I'm just honored that we met, and I'm honored that we are in each other's space, how much or however little that is. I'm honored for the moments that those moments are. And I can't encourage people enough to experience the intoxication. And if it's yours, you will just want more and more and more. And if it's not, you've lost a few moments listening to some exquisite music, right? And so, Mei-lan, thank you. And to our listeners, thank you for being with us. This is a beginning of our introduction. You'll have more of her. There'll be more ways that you can get in contact with her. She is incredibly available. With thousands of people, somehow she finds time to respond to whatever messages she gets at the best way she possibly can. It might not be right the moment you want.
right.
Right.
Yes.
But be patient, be loving, be kind. Somewhere along the line, when the moment's right, that will happen. Mm-hmm. But she speaks to all of us through her music. And you don't need her words in a typed up message. You don't need a phone call. You just need to listen to the music, because what she touches is something that's so pure and innocent in each one of us, that when you hear it, you suddenly feel you're not alone anymore. And you suddenly have the courage to go up to the statue that is on the hill, the gargoyle, and dismantle it and let your heart sing. Thank you for the gift of you. Thank you for being a part of my life. And
so grateful.
For everybody who's listening, thank you again for sharing your time with us. And we'll see you next time. God bless you.